And the upcoming consultations on the I will be reading the press statement about the status of the Nairobi peace process on behalf of the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is a facilitator of the East African community-led process of the restoration of peace and stability in the Eastern DRC. And he has this morning sent out a report to brief the East African community, the African Union and the SADC Secretariat on his work as mandated by the summit of the EAC. Now, President Kenyatta believes that the time is right for him to prepare this brief in light of the dire and escalating situation in the Eastern DRC and the upcoming consultations on the matter. This status update follows a report presented by the facilitator on the East African-led Nairobi process for restoration of peace and stability in Eastern DRC, delivered to the 24th Ordinary Summit of the East African Community Heads of State on November 30th, 2024. It is intended as a briefing for the upcoming joint summit of the Southern African Development Community, that is SADC, and the East African Community EAC, to be held on February 7th to 8th, 2025 in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, as well as the African Union 37th Ordinary Session to be held this February 2025. The Nairobi peace process, just to give you a slight history, the Nairobi peace process was initiated by the East African community in response to the escalating conflict and security challenges in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo in the year 2021-2022. And it represents a critical diplomatic and military effort to peace and stability to the region. This process was formally established during the 22nd Ordinary Summit of the East African Community on the 22nd of July 2022. The summit directed the creation of the intra-Congolese dialogue, which is to be led by His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, the former President of the Republic of Kenya, who was appointed then as the facilitator to oversee the process. Now, the Nairobi peace process was structured around two key elements: political dialogue and military intervention. The political aspect focused on engaging all stakeholders, including armed groups, political factions, civil society, and regional partners in an inclusive conversation aimed at resolving the conflict and fostering long-term peace. The military element involved the deployment of the East African Community Regional Force to provide peacekeeping and peace enforcement support, complementing the political dialogue efforts. Now, progress through June 2023 was encouraging. The facilitator, President Kenyatta, conducted extensive diplomatic engagements, meeting with political, civil, military stakeholders across the region. Key initiatives included multiple targeted discussions with armed groups, including the M23, confidence-building measures with various civil rights and women groups, and the organization of several high-level conferences to resolve tensions and identify pathways to peace. These efforts were supported by ICRAF, UN, and MONUSCO, led to a noticeable reduction in hostilities and a return of displaced persons and significant withdrawals by armed groups from strategic areas in North Kivu. However, in June 2023, as the all-important fourth intra-Congolese dialogue conference was set to take place, political attention in the Democratic Republic of Congo shifted toward the upcoming national elections that were to be held that year, that is 2023, in December. The shift resulted in the slowing down of the Nairobi peace process, and unfortunately at the same time, a political impasse resulted in the withdrawal of the Kenya forces from the ICRAF. This suspension disrupted the momentum of the peace process, leading to a slowing down of the peace negotiations and a breakdown in military cooperation, and ultimately a resurgence of fighting in the region. Now, despite efforts to maintain dialogue, including consultations between the facilitator, President Tshisekedi of DRC, and the M23 leadership the political and security landscape in the DRC became increasingly unstable. Following the December 2023 elections in the DRC, the formation of a new government delayed the resumption of the Nairobi process. While engagements with key stakeholders continued, the lack of political momentum, coupled with renewed hostilities in North Kivu and South Kivu, has significantly undermined the progress made between the year 2022 and 2023. The M23, once subject to a cease agreement, has now regained control over key towns, including Goma, and fighting has once again escalated across the region. The Nairobi peace process, though temporarily sidelined, remains a critical framework for dialogue and conflict resolution in the eastern DRC. The facilitator remains committed to finding pathways to peace in collaboration with the government of DRC, regional partners, and international stakeholders. However, the recent resurgence of hostilities highlights the urgent need for renewed political will, regional cooperation, and sustained support for peace efforts to avoid further deterioration of the security situation in DRC. The facilitator is of the strong opinion and belief that the two processes of Luanda and Nairobi hold the greatest promise for a resolution and termination of the crisis in the eastern DRC. The two processes are complementary and interdependent. It is only through the close coordination of the bilateral negotiations between Rwanda and DRC and the inter-Congolese dialogue and conferencing that this crisis can be brought to a fruitful conclusion. There is an African solution to this African problem, and it is predicated on bringing both DRC and Rwanda back to the negotiating table, while at the same time ensuring that the internal dynamics of the people and the politics in the eastern DRC are managed and directed to a peace and reconciliation through the intra-Congolese dialogue process. The full report and details, as highlighted, have been submitted to the AU, the ESC, and SADC secretariats. I thank you for your kind attention. That will be all for today.
Wako nyuma huko. Songeni nyuma. Bas, hata nyinyi tokeni hapo. Kuna wanafunzi wako huko. Ndio? Haya, Garissa High School hoye. Hamjambo. Assalamu alaikum. Wewe songeni nyinyi, tutakosana na nyinyi, tokeni hapo. Kuna wanafunzi wanangojea huko kuangalia huyu hasla ako hapa anafanya kitu gani. Wewe. Bas, mimi kwanza nataka nimshukuru Mungu tumepata nafasi, tumefika hapa Garissa High School. Na nimepata habari ya kwamba Garissa High School imetoa Wakenya wengi ambao wanasaidia na kuchangia katika kuendesha taifa letu la Kenya. Ni kweli? Na nyinyi mko na bahati na nafasi ya kusoma katika Garissa High School. Na leo tumekuja hapa kwa sababu tuko na a national program ya kuhakikisha kwamba mambo yetu ya upikaji ile inaitwa clean cooking sio mpango ya Kenya, ni mpango ya kimataifa, kwa sababu mazingira duniani kote ikiwemo Kenya inapata matatizo kwa sababu ya vile tunatumia mambo ya environment, vile miti inakatwa, vile carbon inakuwa emitted. Na sababu hiyo, there is a global movement towards clean cooking, and Kenya is part and parcel of the global movement towards clean cooking. And our schools are a very primary target because we have millions of learners in our schools that use millions of resources in terms of cooking. This program here is a pilot program that the government of Kenya is undertaking with a view to rolling out to all our schools across Kenya. it is our intention that instead of using firewood to cook, we will now be using gas, and instead of using gas directly, we will now power our cooking using steam that is generated because of this process. So this is a very important step, and I want to ask the Ministry, both of Environment, under my friend Aden Duale, and the Ministry of Education, to conclude the pilot projects, bring the subject to Cabinet so that we can approve and begin the rollout of this program. I already gave an undertaking on behalf of the government of Kenya that we, as a climate-sensitive country, as a champion of climate action, globally and regionally, we should be the first ones, and we should be at the forefront on making sure that clean cooking become part of our infrastructure, not just in our institutions, but also in our homes. Kwa hivyo, mimi nasema asante sana. Thank you very much for welcoming us to Garissa. Nimekuja hapa mambo ingine mingi. Nimekuja hapa mambo ya airport. We are building and upgrading the airport in Garissa. We have titled it program to title this place. We have affordable housing program that we are undertaking. We have roads programs that we are undertaking, and many other things that we are doing together with the county government and the leadership of Garissa County, as we do it with the rest of the leadership of the Republic of Kenya. Kwa hivyo, nataka niseme asante sana. I am very proud to be amongst the future generations of our nation. I wish you well in your endeavors as students. You have my support 100%. As you have heard, I have undertaken to transform our education sector to make sure that there is clarity in our CBC program, to increase the teacher-student ratio, and that is why I have hired an extra 76,000 teachers in the last 2 years, because we want every student in class to have adequate teaching because of the number of teachers that we are bringing on board. We are also changing the funding model for our education system to make it student-centered. In the past, it was centered around schools and around institutions. But this time around, we want our funding model to be centered around the student and the needs of the student, so that students from vulnerable backgrounds, we can attend to them appropriately, and we can make sure that every child in Kenya has a chance to learn. Kwa hivyo, mimi nimefurahi sana kufika Garissa, kwa sababu mimi nimefika, basi mnajua hawa wadosi wengi hawa wote. Kama kuna matatizo ingine ya shule hapa, huyu former old boy wa student hii, Bwana Duale, ataniambia, ananiambia kuna matatizo kidogo ya shule. Si mtampatia hiyo matatizo aniletee, alafu ndio mtaniambia vile mnataka tushughulike. Lakini kwa sababu nimefika hapa leo, school captain akuje hapa, school president. Habari boss, uko salama? Wewe ndio kusema haya. Ela, uko na maneno? Okay.
The President of the Republic of Kenya and His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, the Deputy President, and Professor Abraham Kidhuri Kindiki, and all protocols observed. Good morning. Your Excellency, your presence, good afternoon. Your Excellency, your presence means a lot to us. And in fact, my people here are very happy because the two presidents have met today. They are very happy because the two presidents have met today. And Your Excellency, on behalf of my fellow people, And Garissa High School, we are facing several challenges. And in terms of academics, we are excellent. Lakini hapo kwa infrastructure tuko chini kiasi. And number one, shule tuko na basi, hatuwezi enda two functions and at the same time. We could need an extra vehicle or an extra bus. And secondly, we usually conduct assemblies in the sun or functions in the sun. So we could need a multipurpose hall so that we can be maybe away from the sun. Thirdly, and the school population is about 1,300, and then the kind of library we have can only accommodate 150 students. So we are asking for the expansion of the library. And I can see the time is very short. I could mention a lot, so thank you.
Okay, Mr. President. Asante sana. I can see you have represented your people very well. Remember, these are your people. So, kwa sababu umetetea hawa watu wako, these your people. Umesema hawana sijui maneno fulani fulani. Mimi vile nitafanya, nitawasaidia shilingi milioni 10. Ndio, Bwana President. Sasa mutapanga kazi gani mutafanyia? Sijui mutajengea hiyo, unasema sijui nini. Mambo ya bus, wajana na mambo ya bus. Bus, huyu Abraham. Huyo mjamaa umesema anaitwa Abraham. Huyu Abraham Kidure Kindiki. Sasa wewe Bwana Deputy President, unajua kazi yako ni kuassist the president. Sasa nataka unisaidie hapo kwa bus. Ama nataka urecruit Duale. Mufanye pamoja hiyo mambo ya bus, mutafute bus mulete. Si ndio? Si namna hiyo? Na waende wapange hiyo bus walete. Mimi nitatoa milioni 10, nitatuma kwa mwalimu mwanze hiyo infrastructure ambayo huyu Bwana President amesema. Sawa sawa. Tunawapenda sana. Thank you very much. Hapa pia tuko na waziri Alice Wahome. Huyu waziri ndio waziri wangu wa mambo ya housing na mambo ya public works na mambo ya title deeds na mambo ya lands. Amebebana na title deeds ya watu wa Garissa. Mnajua governor wetu Bwana Jama, governor wa Garissa. Mnajua mzee wetu Farah Mahalim, mbunge wetu wa hapa Dadaab. Mnajua governor wetu wa kutoka kule Marsabit, Mheshimiwa Mahmoud Ali. Hapa ni Deko ambaye ni mjumbe wetu wa Garissa Town, mbunge wetu wa Lagdera, mbunge wetu nominated, senator wetu wa hapa Bwana Haji, yuko Abdul Haji, na Umu ambaye pia ni nominated MP wetu, na wadosi wengine wengi hapa, na sisi wote ni timu moja. Sawa? Na pia Bwana President ako area. Bas, asanteni sana. God bless you.